Oh my God, guys, it's nearly Halloween. It's in like a week and a half. And I'm excited, I love Halloween. And I'm gonna show you how to make something really, really impressive, but really simple. And the best thing about it is you can actually order this cake on the Crumbs and Doilies website. So you can head over to crumbsanddoilies.co.uk and order for London delivery, or you can collect one from one of our locations. But I encourage you to make one yourself because it's a really simple cake and it's really lovely and perfect thing to do with your kids or just with yourself the weekend before Halloween. So let's go. You're gonna really like it. It's a simple vanilla sponge, but I'm gonna make it orange, and also this is our new vanilla sponge. So it's got buttermilk in it. You might have seen our favourites cakes a couple of weeks ago where I sort of told you about it and a few of you asked for it. So anyway, really simple. The first thing I'm gonna do though is get my buttermilk ready because I'm gonna make this sponge orange. So best to put that in here at this point so we're not like waiting for it to kind of mix through. I've got my buttermilk in a little dish here and I'm using Colour Mill. I'm using it in orange, and now don't forget we have a variety of food colourings on cupcakejemma.com, including these Colour Mills which come in the big sort of assortment of colours, so check that out. And depending on what food colouring you're using, it might be slightly different. I'm going to start with about 3/4 of a teaspoon. This stuff's really, really concentrated, but I do want a nice strong orangey colour because, you know, go big or go home, guys. And I'm also going to add the same amount, so 3/4 of a teaspoon of good quality vanilla extract, and then just give that a really good mix. Oh, it looks pretty cool already, doesn't it? So just pop that to one side, and now it's time to get beating the butter. So I have my soft unsalted butter here. I'm just gonna pop that into the bowl of my stand mixer, along with some vegetable oil and caster sugar as well. And then on a medium speed, you want to beat those together for about 2 minutes until it's all pale and thick. Once it's had a couple of minutes, you need to add the eggs, and I'm adding 5 medium eggs, one at a time. Drop the speed down to the minimum just so it doesn't all fly about, and then give each egg a beat to incorporate them fully. Next up, I have my flour and salt, which I've sifted. I'm just going to add a little scoop of this. This is going to stop the mixture from curdling when I put the buttermilk in. So just fold that in on the slowest speed, and once it's all mixed in, you can add all your orange buttermilk mixture. Keep that folding on a slow speed, and then when that's all incorporated, add the rest of your flour and just fold that through until it's all combined. Give the bowl and the sides a little bit of a scrape just to make sure everything at the bottom and the sides of it all mixed in. And then I always like to just finish it off by hand just to make sure there aren't any like little nuggets of un-orangey batter in the mix. And then I have my 3 tins. So I'm using 7-inch tins, 3 of those. I've greased them already. If you want to do an 8-inch tin vibe, then I'll put the measurements for that in the description box below because I know that 7 inches is a bit of a niche size. This is what we're doing for our favourites cakes anyway. In it goes. And then just using a palette knife, make sure all the tops are level. Lovely. Time to bake them. So I've already preheated my oven to 170 degrees C. We use fan assisted oven in case you didn't know. And these are going to be baked for 26 to 28 minutes or until a skewer comes out clean from the middle. While my cake is baking in the oven, I am going to get on with making the chocolate icing. So this is a really lovely, rich, intense chocolatey cream cheese icing, which is my favourite of the chocolate icings. Just think the cream cheese helps it all become really sort of tangy and intense, and I just love it. I've already melted my chocolate. I've used 70% chocolate here because the icing is quite sweet, and so you can afford to be a little bit more dangerous with your chocolate and use a really intense dark chocolate. So I've melted that so that it has a chance to cool down. So let's beat our butter and our cream cheese together. I'm using nice soft unsalted butter. Really important to use cream cheese that is at room temperature because if you use it from the fridge, it may mix with the butter and stiffen the butter, and you'll end up with like lumpy buttery bits in your buttercream, which is absolutely not what you want. So just get those beating together on a medium to high speed, and you want to keep that going for a minute or two just to get them really well incorporated. It won't go super duper fluffy, but you just want it nice and smooth. Next up, you're adding your icing sugar. You should have already sifted this, and as usual, I like to add half now. Give it a really, really good beat for another minute or two, and then add the other half and do the same thing. When it's all really well combined and it's lovely and smooth and fluffy, you can add your chocolate. So make sure your chocolate isn't in any way warm, otherwise it will make this mixture very sloppy. And just pour it in on a slow speed, and when it's all in, you can whack the speed up to beat it all together thoroughly. And then lastly, we've got to make this icing black, guys. It's Halloween, so I'm using black food colouring. This is Black Extra from Sugar Flair. That's a really super duper concentrated one. So just go easy, start with a teaspoon or two, mix it. If you want to add more, go ahead. And then when it's all mixed through, you should have this lovely, very intense black colour. And it's so good to do it with chocolate because you don't have to use as much black food colouring as if you would if you were making vanilla buttercream, because it's already quite dark. But it does intensify over time, so it will get a little bit darker. So if you're a bit worried you haven't put enough in, maybe just, you know, hold off and put in that extra teaspoon in. But this is, I'm happy with this. So I'm just going to wait for my cakes to bake. I'm going to cover this with cling film until I'm ready to decorate, and yeah, then it's going to get real spooky up in here. But not too spooky. Okay, my sponges, which are spectacularly orange, I'm sure you'll agree, are all cool, and I've leveled the tops just to get rid of the sort of brown bit. I'm not going to trim the edges on this because, I don't know, they're quite neat and tidy, and 7 inches is already quite small, but feel free to trim the edges if you wish. I've got my lovely black chocolate buttercream here. It's absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, it has intensified a little bit more. I'm just going to start building it up. Let's go. Start by using a little bit of icing just on your board to stick the first sponge on, and then whack that first sponge on. You want to fill each layer with a generous amount of icing, but not too much because you can end up having a slippery, slidey affair if you put too much in. Once you've blobbed it onto each layer, use a palette knife just to level it out and make it all nice and smooth, covering the top of the sponge. Then build up your cake with each layer doing the same thing all the way up to the top, but remember to turn the top layer upside down to get a nice, clean finish on the top. Next up, give your whole cake a lovely crumb coat. As usual, put a generous amount on to start with on the top and the sides using like a straight palette knife. You can use your cranked small palette knife as well if you want to, and then smooth off and take away the excess using a cake scraper. Then clean up your board and pop it into the fridge for at least half an hour to chill until it's completely set. Once the cake's nice and cold, you can finish it with the top coat. So you just want to apply the icing in exactly the same way with your palette knife, generously at first, and then smoothing it out using a cake scraper just to get those lovely clean sides and clean tops and nice sharp corners. And there she is, looking very clean and smooth, but not very Halloween-y at all yet. So let's ghost this baby up. I've made some vanilla icing, just vanilla buttercream. I only needed a small amount because I'm only just going to do a few little blobs on the top. So all I did was I got a small mixing bowl and I used my hand mixer, my trusty 2-pronged hand mixer, just to beat 125 grams of soft unsalted butter, and just until it was pale and fluffy. It took a few minutes. And then I added my icing sugar, which was sifted already. I did it in 2 stages, beating really well for a couple of minutes after each addition, just to make sure it was all really well incorporated and all fluffed up. And then to loosen it, I just added a little bit of milk and of course a drop of vanilla to flavour it nicely. Beat that all up, and then I ended up with lovely, luscious, our normal vanilla buttercream, which I've put into a piping bag just with a fat round nozzle on the end because I want to do little ghosts on top. Now this is going to be like as if you were making meringue kisses, but not meringue and not kisses because they're ghosts, and this is buttercream. So I'll show you how to do the blobs because there is a bit of a knack to doing a nice chubby blob. You don't want to have it too squat or too tall. You want it to have sort of a chubby bum and a nice point on the top. And the way that you do this is you get your piping nozzle and you actually start with it quite high above the cake, and you start squeezing and keep it where it is and then pull it away. So as you can see, I've got myself a really cute little chubby blob, which I am going to turn into a ghost by the magic of some leftover chocolate buttercream, which I just put into a bag with a number 2 nozzle tip on it so that I can just do a little ghosty face. Let's keep this one really simple. I'm just going to do some little cross eyes and a sad mouth, because he did. And there it is, my finished little ghosty cake. I think you'll agree it's pretty cute. So it's really fun, really simple, really achievable thing to bake either on your own, or this could be a really nice thing to do with your kids, perhaps, because it's not very complicated, guys. You could easily do this with children, maybe not like my child. I feel like she'd just probably eat half of the icing before it even got a chance to get on the cake. And don't forget, you can order these if you are in London or if you want to come and collect from one of our London bakeries. Check out the website. We'll put a link to that in the description box below, but there's other goodies as well to check out on our website. But also, if you're in Soho next week and all the way up until Halloween, from next week, you'll be graced with delicious Halloween specials. We're actually famous for our Halloween cupcakes. We have some really great flavors. Cookies and Scream, Eat and Death, Key Slime Die. So make sure you head over to Crumbs and Doilies in Soho to grab yourself a little Halloween spooky treat. And if you make this, please do share it using #CupcakeJemma so we can see it. Enjoy this cake. I'm gonna get myself a slice.